on good authority that these are the pyjamas that Khabib wears. So take it up with the internet. What makes one small region in Russia the perfect environment to nurture sporting talent? Is it the culture, the genetics, the high altitude, the troubling past? What makes the people most prolific in wrestling and weightlifting? What makes them the proud owners of 5 of the 18 Olympic wrestling medals given out at Rio? What turns them into combat world champions across all disciplines? Let's find out, shall we? But before we do, shall we get to know our main characters a little better? Khabib is arguably the most famous person from Dagestan, let alone athlete. Former UFC lightweight champion, Khabib went 29-0 before he retired in 2020. Khabib has a relentless, exhausting style that overwhelms his opponents until the life and hope is drained from them. He's always 100% committed to each and every takedown, and he will not stop until his opponent hits the canvas, where the ground and pound begins. He throws feints and strikes on the feet that force the other guy to the outside. Then he dives like an eagle, living up to his fighter name. Khabib always demonstrates an amazing understanding of positioning and balance. He skillfully grabs a body lock and drags the rival to the mat, quickly establishing top control. His flexibility is outstanding, his activity level high, and his skill level so far beyond anyone else that there's no chance of escape. Though people love to criticise his striking game, he definitely improved over time. He played mind games on the feet, quickly exploding with hooks and stepping in with uppercuts that controlled his opponent's position. He would fake a takedown, and because that's the last place any of his opponents wanted to be, they'd bite and he'd come over the top with a strike. But of course I wouldn't be making a whole video on Dagestani mindset if he was the only one. Like many others from Dagestan, Makhachev's education in combat sports began from a young age with freestyle wrestling and judo. In 2001, Makhachev began training alongside Khabib and under the tutelage of Khabib's father in combat sambo. Following his victory at UFC 187, Makhachev told reporters that he felt that it was combat sambo that allowed him to easily transition to MMA and fight on any level. Although, like Khabib, many of Islam's professional MMA fights have ended via submission, either by armbar, rear naked choke or triangle choke, Islam always displays good striking ability and an impressive kicking game. Magomed is a heavy-handed striker who, of course, has a strong grappling base. He was focused on Greco-Roman wrestling before starting MMA in 2014. Another Dagestani with good hands. In just his second fight in the UFC, Saeed faced Ricardo Ramos, who was on a 3-strike win streak. But the hype didn't bother Saeed, who knocked Ricardo out in the opening minutes. Umar has an elite Muay Thai background and is a relentless grappler just like Khabib, but with outstanding standing skills. Islam is an experienced grappler with amazing finishing skills. He made a name for himself while fighting in the WSOF promotion, where he holds an unbeaten record. Askar might actually be a machine. He shows a well-rounded game, his boxing and Muay Thai skills are really good, and of course, He has excellent wrestling and BJJ skills as well. Zubaira has a wild style both inside and outside the octagon, and is crazy exciting to watch. Whether he's beating down opponents or getting involved in Khabib and Conor's scuffles, he obviously enjoys being involved in brawls. He has very good striking skills and is also an expert in combat sambo. Abulayev is the PFL featherweight champion, has an undefeated professional MMA record, and holds the fastest knockout in PFL history with a 10-second flying knee knockout. Muhammad is a new signing for the UFC, who is coming in with quite a lot of hype, and I am hyped because not only is he from Dagestan, but he fights out of Manchester, baby! And Usman, another of the Nurmagomedov crew, is on a tear through the Bellator lightweight rankings as we speak. And I'm barely scratching the surface, but this isn't about the individuals, it's about what links them, so it's time for a history lesson. Dagestan is known for its stunning mountainous landscapes, its history of political unrest and violence, and for its wrestlers and mixed martial artists. Dagestan's neighbour, Chechnya, has greater notoriety due to the brutal Islamic terrorist cells we all heard about back in the 90s. In 1991, insurgents declared independence from Russia and invaded Dagestan. This conflict was an especially brutal one in the region's history, taking the lives of tens of thousands of soldiers, insurgents, and civilians. But the roots trace all the way back to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Both territories sought recognition and visibility in a world in which they felt smothered by Eastern Orthodox Russia, and both found themselves fighting for their way of life. And growing up in these tough conditions contributes towards instilling an indomitable spirit and an iron will in the people of Dagestan. Even as recently as 2011, Dagestan was named the most dangerous place in Europe due to constant terrorist attacks. But the people have quite remarkably turned a history of violence into a positive outlet. To divert aggression into something productive, the region introduced an exercise-based strategy that teaches discipline and instills pride. With wrestling training at its core, the initiative seeks to prevent young men from entering the forest, as the Islamic insurgency is known in Dagestan. And this strategy runs far, wide, and deep in the fabric of the region. All around the capital city there are open-air training grounds painted with slogans recommending the Olympic goal instead of terrorism, or discipline in the face of extremism. The young men of Dagestan begin and end each school day with wrestling and exercise, and the drive to be the best runs through them like a stick of Blackpool rock. They're not interested in terrorism, they just want to be world champions. This purpose to move away from the horrors of the past and as a community create a better future is a big part of why the athletes from Dagestan are just a cut above the rest. The region has phenomenal access to training in wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu, boxing and kickboxing, which make up the most important aspects of MMA. Islam Makhachev refers to wrestling as Dagestan's national sport, saying that 90% of the men in the area are training. But his specific talents across the many disciplines of MMA come from an ever-evolving interest in every discipline from a very young age. He says, "I did both, sometimes wrestling, sometimes MMA. When I was young, I am completely evolving, like amateur wrestling, amateur sambo, amateur, like many, many sports." It may seem from the outside that the young men of Dagestan, for one, had their purpose set out from birth, and for two, don't have much of a choice. But many journalists who have visited the area say that is not at all the case. They genuinely want to wrestle and fight and become champions. But how do you discover what your purpose is if you don't know it already? This is not a topic I can cover off in a tiny portion of a larger video, but you can ponder over these questions while I ponder over addressing that topic in full at a later date. What struggle or sacrifice are you willing to tolerate?
Your purpose isn't going to be all roses all the time, but what ultimate goal makes your journey seem worth it? Answering this question might also tell you where your competitive advantage lies. What childhood passion did you give up? What did you used to do, not for gain or societal standing or praise, but for the sheer joy of it? What activity makes you lose track of time and get into a flow state? What scares you? What problem can you solve?
That's not an exhaustive list, and you may not come up with the answers first time. And if you haven't developed your intuition, those answers may take some time and a lot of self-discovery. But if you put in the work and discover your purpose, what can be better than that? I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what my purpose is, but I can tell you I have an ability like no one else I know to find something fascinating in absolutely any subject and communicate it in a way that people will understand and enjoy. And there's definitely something in that.
The disciplined approach instilled in the people of Dagestan from a young age is key to the region's success. Makhachev himself says, "Everybody in Dagestan is very tough, trains very hard, and has discipline, and it shows in their daily training. The fighters make the most of the high altitude to raise the number of red blood cells and improve their cardio advantage, starting each day with an early morning run over harsh terrain and sprinting up steep mountains. And if they come across an ice patch, you bet they'll use that natural ice bath for recovery or endurance. They'll follow the run with an hour of pad work, and all this is before breakfast. True fighting brothers, the Dagestani camps train together 2 to 3 times a day, and that's not all. They are truly bonded, having lovely, wholesome naps together as well. Following the nap, they'll do a 2 or 3 mile hike up a mountain and wrestle at the top as you do." And of course, you will probably have heard about the other, more irregular training tactics involving actual bears and small children.
Many of the fighters we see today have Khabib's father to thank for their exceptional training. These young men all grew up preparing for battle, but under the freestyle wrestler's watchful eye, they took a much safer path to victory. Whatever your purpose or your goal, all the good stuff lies in being uncomfortable. Push yourself just a little bit more each day and surround yourself with people who understand your mission, can help you get there, and will make the journey all that more enjoyable. As well as, or perhaps intertwined with, this purpose and focus, these incredible athletes have faith. Dagestan is a Muslim region, and many of the fighters believe they are destined for greatness. But they also believe in the importance of giving back to their community. Inside the octagon, Khabib is a man possessed who simply likes to maul and beat the soul out of his opponents. But outside of the cage, he's a humble person and a religious man. Khabib has been such an important role model to so many people, showing how celebrity can be handled with dignity and a conscience. He's travelled to places like Nigeria with the main aim of his trip to build water wells and medical centres. Following his fight with Dustin Poirier, Khabib auctioned off his fight shirt and raised $100,000 for Dustin's charity. He works hands-on with addicts in Dagestan, helping them to overcome their problems and offering motivation and support. We already touched on the fact that living a purposeful life has to involve solving a problem for someone else. So, as you ascend with purpose, think about who you can help, how you can pay all the help you got forward, and how you can use your power for good. Khabib also encourages the good in others. He turned down an offer to rematch Conor McGregor in Saudi Arabia, saying the $100 million that he got offered to fight would be much better placed in a charity, and he publicly calls on his peers to do more with their money than buy fucking watches and boats, which may have been aimed at Conor McGregor. The nails to Khabib's chalkboard. The fighters from Dagestan, both well known and below the radar, prioritise supporting each other, being humble, and doing what's right. They understand the importance of supporting young wrestlers and young MMA fighters coming up behind them. They don't care about the fame and the fortune. They only use the fortune to further support their community, their family, and their culture. And Khabib is no different. But Conor is very, very different. Humble versus braggadocious, soft versus brash, a role model versus a frickin' train wreck. Khabib completely dominated Conor when they fought, but their differences extend way beyond fighting style. McGregor is the king of PR. Khabib's fame is more a byproduct of his purpose. Conor has cried retirement 3 times and come back every time. Khabib retired in 2020 due to a promise he made to his mum, and he does not look set to break that. Of course, Khabib is confident in his pre-fight analysis, but he doesn't trash talk for the hell of it. Conor does more trash talk than actual fighting. I made this jacket out of your brother. After they fought, Khabib said, "I told people October 6th was the day I was waiting for. It's not my style to talk. Of course I told people my plan. I was going to make him tired, change his face, smash his face. I did everything I said. But everything he said, he did nothing. And that's the big difference between us." Khabib is led by morals. Conor is led by impulse and ego.
Khabib believes money has changed Conor, while he remains the same, still driving his Toyota truck around while Conor gets yet another custom-made boat. He says, "This shows how he has changed with money. Most crazy things are because of money or fame."
I'm not saying becoming great at your chosen subject matter should be completely selfless, but just try to remember why you started doing it in the first place. If someone comes at you with a glimmering perk or pay packet, consider whether it gets you a step closer to your goals, whether it fits with your values, or whether it's simply a shiny distraction. No, it's too late for you now. But as Joe Rogan says, stop wishing you started earlier and start right the frick now. Uncover your purpose, push yourself to get a little bit better every day, get uncomfortable, surround yourself with the right people. Don't get distracted by ego or sources of instant serotonin. Give back as often as you take, keep your eyes on the prize, and believe in yourself. And while you're sprinting up mountains and wrestling bears, don't forget to take care of yourself. Don't leave it to anybody else.